This morning we're going to be talking about cleaning your gun. Ideally we want to be cleaning the gun after every use. No one expects anyone to be giving it a full strip down and clean even if you've just gone and shot 50 sporting, but realistically when we take it out and we get oily hands all over it, put cartridges through the gun, we at least want to give it a run through and a wipe over. Every so often, maybe every 2 or 3 times you use it, we want to take it to bits and give it a fairly more in-depth clean. I would also recommend to do it as soon as you come in from the shoot, because the worst thing you can do is put it back in the cabinet and think, right, I'll clean it later on. And then you fall asleep and you wake up in the morning with a rusty gun. So as soon as you get in, just get it done, wipe it down, run a rod through it, take the chokes out, give them a bit of a wipe. It only takes 2 or 3 minutes. The tools that we're going to use are provided for us by John Rothery, and we believe that this kit is the most comprehensive cleaning kit on the market, available from us in the Oxford Gun Company shop. So what we're going to do now is take the gun to bits and go through how to clean the bits individually.
TSC is brought to you with support from Sabati Guns from Rangerite, CCI Clays, Yieldits Guns, Ely Cartridges, Browning Guns, Bowman Traps, Breeden School, and Charles Stanley Wealth Management.
So the first thing we do is take the fore end off the gun. We always put the fore end down like that. The reason for that is that if we put it down any other way and it's on the edge of the table, it's very liable to rolling off and rolling away. So rule of thumb, always put the U shape down like that so it doesn't roll off anywhere. Avoids cracked fore ends, especially if it's customers' guns, it gets a bit awkward when they roll off the table. We then roll the barrels off for the action, and then importantly, we're going to take the pressure off the top spring here, okay? So we're going to get a little biro and push this button down here, okay? So just on the top of the gun there. So now that that's done, the pressure's off the top spring. So now we have the gun in 3 different bits in front of us, and this gives us the 3 different bits that we're going to be cleaning. The first bit that we're going to go through is the barrels, inside and out. We're then going to have a look at the action. Inside here is very important on the trigger guard, also on the trigger itself, often gets forgotten. And then last but not least, we're going to go through the intricate bits of the fore end as well. So the first thing we're going to do is clean the inside of the barrels. We're going to get all of the scoring that we've put into the gun through shooting it, all of the residue that's in there. We're going to get all of that out and make sure that there's nothing left over that can pit the barrels. So this is the jag. So this is what we wrap the patches around when we're putting the initial rod through the gun to get rid of any sort of larger bits of dirt that are in the barrel already. So the first thing I'm going to do is impregnate my patch with ball cleaner. We're going to twist it round and we're going to put it on the end of the rod. It sometimes helps if the gun is particularly dirty to just give the barrels a quick spray, more for lubrication than anything else. So we make sure that that's wrapped up nice and tight, put it into the barrels there like that, and then we push it all the way through. The tighter chokes the gun, the harder it is to get it out the other end. Good. So what that does is it gets all of the bigger bits of residue and grime out of the barrel before we put the phosphor bronze down. Is take this jag off and swap it for the phosphor bronze. Now this phosphor bronze is what's going to be doing most of the cleaning. So we need to make sure that there's plenty of ball cleaner on there, just to make sure it's well lubricated. And then this is where most of the cleaning happens. So we want to make sure that this is pretty well put through the gun. So what we're doing is just rubbing that phosphor bronze all the way through the barrels, but paying particular attention to the chambers and just after the chambers as well, because that tends to be where a lot of the grime gets built up. Okay, so once we've done that, we're going to take that off and we're going to put the mop on. Now then, the mop is going to pick up any of the grime and dirt that the phosphor bronze has brought off the barrels, and it's also going to get rid of any of the excess oil that we've put down there as well. So now we're going to put that mop in and just let it pick up any of the grime that's been left behind by the phosphor bronze. Which will end up looking like that, hopefully. It sort of tells us we've done our job properly. so that's the inside of the barrels done. Once we've done that, we're going to leave the barrels alone, because inevitably we're going to have to be putting them up and putting them back down again. And if we keep picking it up, we're going to keep putting grubby, oily hands all over them. So we're going to leave the outside preferably till last, so that we can make sure that we're not going to keep putting sticky hands on it that are going to make it rusty as well. So then we turn our attention to the receiver, or the action. So we're now going to switch from the bore cleaner to the gun oil, and we're going to spray some on our oily rag. We're going to use the fresh one. So we want this to be as oily as we can possibly get it, really. The rag absorbs most of the oil in itself, and like I said, eventually it'll end up looking like that, and that keeps it all in. So to begin with, we want to put a fair bit of oil on the rag, just to make sure that there's plenty in there. But what this does is it makes sure that we don't over apply the oil onto the gun so that it doesn't seep into the stock. So we're going to give it a wipe on the outside, go through all the different bits, back of the safety catch, trigger guard, and then we're going to get inside the action as well. Now then, there'll come a point where you can't get to all of the intricacies of the inside of the receiver there. So what we need to do is get the girlfriend's toothbrush and give that a good clean out as well. Obviously this is one that's been used before, and it doesn't hurt to spray a little bit of oil on there as well. Lovely. So that should have taken most of the grit off, and it should sort of keep it a little bit loose so that we can run this back over it and pick it all up with that. You can see it's starting to turn into the colour of the old one. Good. Lovely. So that's all done. Now that's finished, we then turn our attention to the fore end. There's not a lot of work to do on the fore end, but it's also very important. This part of the fore end here is in constant contact with that bit there, and every time you open the gun, that's going to be sliding against it potentially. So we want to make sure that this bit is fairly well lubricated so it doesn't rub against it and start taking the shine off the metalwork. So we'll give that a little bit of a wipe off just to get all the bigger bits of dirt off it, and then we'll give it a bit of a scrub with the toothbrush in there as well, so that's nice and clean. Then make sure you rub over any surfaces that you've gone over with the toothbrush just to get all the bits that the toothbrush has picked up. Okay, so now all of that is nice and clean, we want to put our attention back to the barrels. First bit that we're going to look at are the tops of them here. Okay, this is where a lot of grime tends to build up and is normally the first victim for rust as well. So all of the ejectors, the face of the gun, all the blacking around the top there as well, these tend to be where a lot of the rust develops to begin with. So we want to give this a nice rub over, make sure that it's got that oil film that we want to finish on it. And this is also where the toothbrush comes in handy again, to get inside all of these intricate little bits here. So give that a rub over. At this point, don't be worried about having your hand on there, because what we're going to be doing is cleaning it in a process that means that at the end of the procedure we can get all of the greasy hands off as well. So try not to touch this bit when you're cleaning it, because that's what's going to go straight onto our clean action there. So we get this nice and clean, make sure that that film of oil is all over all of it, and then we're going to put it back onto the gun. Okay. Now, the only bit of the gun that's got my greasy fingers on it, apart from the stock which I've just put on, is this bit here. And this gives us the perfect opportunity to wipe it off with our oily rag. Then once we've done that, we can put the fore end back on. and then wipe over. So now we've got no reason to have to touch any of the oily surfaces that we've just cleaned off, and we don't get any greasy pores on anything. Okay, so the next part of the gun that we're going to be cleaning is the chokes. Okay, we want to make sure that we're cleaning the chokes after every time we use it. Okay, these are the bits that are most likely to get welded into the gun. If you don't pay attention to these, after a while you just can't get them out because they'll stick themselves in. So every time you use the gun, it takes 2 seconds. Just open the gun up so you can check that it's clear, put it between your legs to make sure that it's broken, and then we get the choke key and start taking them out. Okay, so hopefully they'll look something like that, and all we need to do is just give them a wipe with our oily rag and just get anything that might be on there. The inside of the chokes has already been cleaned by the rods that we put through the gun, so what we're doing is cleaning the bit of the metal that's in between, on the outside of the choke, in between the gun. So then we want to put it back, make sure that we put the chokes back in the order that they came out of, and then make sure they're nice and tight as well. Loose chokes are a big safety hazard. And then exactly the same on the other choke, sorry. There we go. Give that a final wipe over the action, up on there, and we're done. I don't think anyone's expected to do that every time you shoot the gun. That is a fairly deep clean as it goes. But the only real bits that we want to be doing every time we shoot is making sure that the barrels are nice and clean, the top ribs nice and clean, the inside of the barrels are nice and clean. So literally just a wipe over and a run through, and then taking the chokes out and putting them back in. We're now going to put the gun in a sock, kindly provided by Rothery. So nice and empty and safe. And then the gun goes back in the cabinet.